The kingdom of Ardelia lay beneath a blanket of silver mist. The kind of mist that made the forests shimmer and the rivers glint like molten glass under the moonlight. It was a kingdom that sparkled with beauty, but it hid a sorrow no eye could see. King Aldrich sat alone upon his throne, the weight of gold and jewels pressing against his shoulders like a reminder of everything he could not have. Love was forbidden here. Centuries ago, a curse had been cast upon his ancestors. Anyone who dared to follow the call of their heart would bring ruin upon the throne. Every king before him had learned the truth too late. He walked the silent halls of the palace, his footsteps echoing against cold marble. The corridors were lined with portraits of kings and queens long gone, their eyes staring silently, judging him without words. Even the voices of his advisors, when they came, felt hollow, echoes of duty, not warmth. Aldrich's heart ached in the quiet of the night. He longed for something more than the crown, more than power. He longed for a hand to hold, a laugh to share, a warmth that wasn't made of gold. He wondered, not for the first time, if love was a luxury the cursed could never afford. He reached the balcony, where the moon spilled silver light across the gardens below. For a moment, the world seemed still, as if it were waiting. And in that stillness, a whisper brushed against his soul, the impossible desire for companionship, for connection, for love. But Aldrich knew the truth. Desire was a dangerous thing. It could shatter kingdoms. It could destroy lives. And yet, even as he turned away from the balcony, he could not banish the ache in his chest. He was alone. And sometimes, the loneliness was louder than the whispers of the palace. Beyond the stone walls of Ardelia, where the palace towers pierced the sky and the gardens were always ordered and silent, the world opened into untamed wilderness. The forests stretched like oceans of green, rivers gleamed silver under the moon, and flowers whispered their secrets to the wind. In this world of freedom lived a girl named Ilara. She was small, but her presence carried a warmth that even the harshest winter could not freeze. Her hair was dark as midnight, flowing in waves over her shoulders, and her eyes sparkled with curiosity and a quiet courage. The villagers often spoke of her laugh, a sound so soft and melodic it could make even the grumpiest elder smile. Ilara had a habit of wandering far into the forest at night, seeking herbs, berries, or simply the solace of moonlight. Tonight was no different. The silver glow painted the trees in ghostly hues, and the river murmured secrets as it wound past the ancient oaks. She hummed quietly, bending to pluck a cluster of night-blooming flowers. A movement on the edge of her vision made her freeze. A figure walked along the palace gardens, visible only by the faint gleam of moonlight on polished armor. He moved with the careful steps of someone used to solitude. Ilara's heart skipped. She had heard stories of the king, a man whose heart was said to be bound by duty, whose curse forbade love. And yet, here he was, alive, human, and, somehow, tender in his loneliness. Their eyes met. For a moment, time seemed to pause, as though the moon itself had stopped its journey to witness the connection. Aldrich's gaze, usually heavy with sorrow, softened when he looked at her. She, in turn, felt an unfamiliar pull, a whisper inside her chest that she could neither name nor ignore. Ilara said softly, to herself, "Who are you?" Aldrich hesitated, the crown weighing on his shoulders even as it rested in memory. No words could explain the loneliness, the burden of fate, the desire he was forbidden to feel. Yet he answered, almost reluctantly, "Someone who only wishes to walk in the quiet with you." Ilara tilted her head, curiosity shining in her eyes. "Why here? Why now?" Aldrich quietly said. "The walls are too tall. The halls too cold. Sometimes I need to see the world beyond gold and stone." He stepped closer, careful not to startle her. The night air was thick with the scent of wildflowers and dew. For the first time, he felt the weight of centuries lift slightly, replaced by the dangerous lightness of connection. And so began their stolen nights. Each meeting beneath the silver moon became a thread woven in secret, delicate yet unbreakable. They shared stories, her tales of forest adventures, his recollections of palace life and endless responsibility. Laughter mingled with silence. Questions danced with answers. Every glance carried the silent acknowledgement of something forbidden, something dangerous, but impossible to resist. Elara felt her world expand. The palace, with its whispered legends of a cold king, was no longer just a story, it was alive in his eyes. And Aldrich felt what he had never dared to feel before, a spark that warmed the frost inside him, a dangerous, beautiful longing. Yet both knew that each stolen night was fragile. The curse was real, patient, and cruel. It lurked in shadowed corners and whispered warnings in the wind. Every laugh, every touch of hands, every shared glance edged them closer to a precipice they could not see. And still, they met. Because some connections are impossible to deny. Some hearts cannot be silenced by curses or crowns. And as the moon traced its path across the sky, Aldrich and Elara began a story that neither would ever forget. A story that would defy time, fate, and even the cruelest of destinies. Days turned into nights, and nights into stolen moments. Aldrich could not resist the pull that drew him beyond the palace walls. Each step through the quiet gardens felt both thrilling and dangerous, as though the very stones beneath his feet warned him that he was walking on the edge of fate. Elara waited for him in the forest clearing, as if the trees themselves had guided her there. Moonlight filtered through the leaves, casting shadows that danced across her face. Her smile greeted him before words did, a smile that could calm even the storm raging within him. Elara said, teasing gently, "You are late tonight. Did the crown keep you busy, or were you simply afraid of the shadows?" Aldrich answered almost vulnerably, "Perhaps a little of both. Shadows tend to follow me even where I do not want them." They walked together, side by side, past the wildflowers that bent beneath the silver moon. Each conversation deepened the bond that was already growing between them. Aldrich spoke sparingly of palace life, carefully hiding the weight of duty and the curse that clung to him like a second skin. Elara spoke of her world, of stars she had counted, of herbs that held forgotten magic, of the secret paths of the forest that no map could reveal. Elara said, curiously, "Do you ever wonder what it would be like to be free of all this?" Aldrich answered quietly and thoughtfully, "Every day. Yet I fear freedom comes at a cost I am not willing to pay. And yet, every moment together was a rebellion. Every laugh, every shared glance, every gentle touch of hands was a defiance of the fate that had been laid before them. Aldrich could feel the curse lingering, like a shadow stretching its fingers toward them. The kingdom itself seemed to shudder whenever he allowed himself to dream of a life with her. Aldrich, to himself, murmuring, "Every moment with her is stolen, but I cannot let it go." Elara noticed his hesitation, the shadow that flickered across his expression even as he tried to smile. Elara said, "Something troubles you. Tell me, please. You do not have to carry it alone." Aldrich, strained, honest. "There are dangers you cannot see. A curse binds my family. Love is forbidden, and yet, I cannot stay away from you." She reached for his hand, her touch light but certain, as if to anchor him. Then she said, softly, "Then let us walk this path together. Whatever comes, we face it together." The moon bore witness to their secret vow, painting the forest in silver and shadow. Every meeting from that night onward was a thread woven in secrecy, fragile yet strong. Each word, each shared silence, deepened the connection between them. The nights became their world. They spoke of dreams, of the distant past, of what could be if fate were kinder. Each stolen moment was filled with laughter and longing, with unspoken fears and tender glances. And though the curse waited silently, Aldrich and Elara found in each other a warmth that no shadow, no curse, no duty could touch. The night came with a weight heavier than any Aldrich had ever felt. The moon hung high, silver and cold, casting its light over the forest clearing where he and Elara had met so many nights before. Tonight, something felt different. The air itself seemed alive, whispering secrets that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. He took her hand gently, feeling the warmth that had become his anchor. Every heartbeat was a drum of warning and desire, and he could sense the silent presence of the curse lurking just beyond their joy. Elara said softly, "You seem troubled tonight. Something is not like before, isn't it?" Aldrich answered. "The nights, the air, it warns me. I've felt it stirring. The curse is waking, Ilara. It knows we exist." Ilara's brow furrowed, but her courage did not waver. She stepped closer to him, her voice firm but gentle. "Ilara, then we face it together. I will not run, and I will not hide. Whatever comes, I am her." Aldrich shook his head slightly, torn. Love was a dangerous flame, and the curse, ancient and relentless, was a storm ready to consume them both. He took a deep breath, feeling the energy shift around them. The air grew thick, almost tangible, and the forest seemed to hush. Moonlight flickered like firelight across the leaves. Somewhere, deep within the palace walls, a bell tolled as if the kingdom itself trembled in warm energy. And then it came. A tremor ran through the earth. A sudden gust of wind ripped through the clearing, scattering petals and leaves like a tempest of silver. Aldrich stumbled, shielding Ilara, his mind screaming in panic. And he said, "Ilara, stay behind. Me." A crack of lightning split the sky, illuminating their faces. In that blinding moment, he saw it, the curse, ancient and merciless, weaving its invisible threads around their lives. Windows of the palace shattered miles away, as though the very stones themselves were crying out. Ilara said fearfully, What is happening? Is it the kingdom?" Aldrich answered desperately, "It's the curse, the one my ancestors warned me of. It knows. It senses our defiance." Ilara reached for his hand, trembling slightly, but her gaze held steady. In her eyes, he saw trust, courage, and the dangerous promise of love unbound. For a moment, he allowed himself to hope. Ilara said, "Then we fight it. We fight it. Together." Aldrich's heart ached, for he knew it was not something that could be fought with swords or magic. The curse was woven into the fate of kings. It was patient, clever, and unyielding. Every stolen moment, every laugh, every touch had brought them closer to its wrath. The moon reflected in their eyes as they held each other. Aldrich realized, in that instant, the impossible truth. To protect her, he might have to sacrifice everything he had ever known. And yet, the thought of letting her go, of abandoning this warmth, this love, was unbearable. The curse had awakened. It had marked them. And the night, silver and beautiful as it was, had become a battlefield of hearts, duty, and faith. The days that followed the awakening of the curse were long and heavy. Each morning, Aldrich awoke to the weight of his decision pressing against his chest like a stone. The throne had never felt so empty, and yet love had never felt so full. The halls of the palace echoed with his own footsteps, and the portraits of his ancestors seemed to watch him with silent judgment. They had warned him of love's dangers, of the cost it would bring, and now that cost stood before him in the form of Ilara. He thought of the kingdom, its people, its legacy. Walls and crowns, laws and history pressed on him with relentless force, reminding him of the duty that had shaped his life since birth. Yet his heart ached for something simpler, something purer, a hand to hold, a laugh to share, a life without the cold weight of solitude. Every instinct screamed to preserve the crown, to maintain the kingdom, but every heartbeat pulled him toward the warmth he had finally found. On the riverbank where they had often met, the silver moon reflected off the rippling water, illuminating Ilara's face, hopeful and trusting. Aldrich reached out, and for the first time, he allowed himself to confront the impossible truth. The crown, with all its gold and history, meant nothing without her. The kingdom, vast and powerful, could not fill the void of loneliness that had shadowed him for decades. He lifted the heavy crown from his head, feeling the cold weight of centuries, and set it carefully upon the riverbank, as if relinquishing the burdens of duty with the same motion that embraced love. In the quiet night, he stepped forward and took her hands in his own. The warmth of her fingers anchored him, grounding him in a reality he had always feared to embrace. The air was alive with possibility, and even the wind seemed to pause, carrying petals and leaves that swirled around them like memories of everything they had shared. In that moment, Aldrich understood the essence of freedom. It was not found in power or gold, nor in a throne high above the people he ruled. Freedom was found in connection, in the courage to face an uncertain future with someone by your side. The moonlight shone down brighter, silver and patient, as though the world itself had stopped to witness a heart finally choosing what it had long desired. They stood together, hand in hand, hearts aligned, ready to face the consequences of the choice that had set them free. Love, fragile and dangerous, had triumphed over duty, and in that victory, Aldrich had found everything he had ever truly wanted. The world outside their stolen nights had changed while they lingered in their fleeting happiness. Ardelia, left without its king, trembled under the weight of uncertainty. Villages that once thrived now burned, borders weakened, and whispers of rebellion spread like wildfire. Every letter that reached them carried the scent of smoke and sorrow, a reminder that the throne Aldrich had abandoned was not merely a symbol, but a lifeline for thousands of lives. Yet in the quiet of their hiding place, beneath the silver glow of the moon, Aldrich and Alara found solace in the warmth they had discovered in each other. Simple meals, laughter shared in soft whispers, and nights spent beneath the stars became their fragile world. Every stolen moment was a defiance of fate, and every heartbeat a rebellion against the curse that sought to claim them. He looked at her often, tracing the curve of her smile with eyes that had seen too much solitude and pain. He felt the weight of the crown's absence, of the kingdom left to chaos, but the heaviness of loss paled in comparison to the emptiness he had felt without her. She had become his anchor, his reason to keep walking forward even when the world itself seemed to crumble. The nights were long, and sometimes the cost of their love pressed against them like an unseen hand. The curse had left its mark, subtle yet persistent, reminding them that freedom was never without consequence. Even in moments of laughter, shadows lingered at the edges, whispers of what they had given up and what they had yet to face. And yet, in those moments, Aldrich understood the truth. Love did not erase sacrifice, but it gave it meaning. They could face the storms ahead, the world's chaos, the anger of the throne and the whispers of the kingdom, because they faced it together. Hand in hand, hearts entwined, they carried the weight of their choices with courage and quiet resolve. The moon traced its path across the sky, silver and eternal, and for a fleeting moment, it seemed to approve of their defiance. Even as Ardelia fell into turmoil, even as whispers of the curse lingered in the wind, the bond between Aldrich and Alara shone brighter than any crown, stronger than any law, and more enduring than the fear that had haunted generations. Love, fragile and dangerous, had endured. And in that endurance lay the quiet victory of two hearts daring to be free, even if the world beyond them suffered. Years passed, and the story of Aldrich and Alara became legend. Bards whispered of the king who gave up his crown for a girl from the village, a tale carried on the winds to every corner of the kingdom. Some said their love endured, that they walked together through forests and rivers, free and unbound. Others claimed the curse eventually separated them, leaving only memory and sorrow. But the truth, the essence of their story, was never in the ending. It was in the choice. Aldrich had chosen love when the world demanded duty. He had abandoned gold, power, and legacy for the warmth of a single human connection. And in that choice, he had discovered something more enduring than any throne could offer. Freedom, joy, and a life lived fully, however fleeting or dangerous it might be. Even in exile, even in the uncertainty that followed their decision, Aldrich and Alara carried each other through the quiet and the chaos. They faced storms and sorrow, hardship and whispers of the past, but their hearts remained tethered, resilient in the face of a world that would not forgive their defiance. The bond they had forged in the moonlit nights of the forest and along the silver river became stronger with every trial, every shared silence, every fleeting laugh. And so, when the moon rose and forests glowed silver, lovers still whispered their names. Their story was told not for the caution it offered, nor for the tragedy it may have brought, but for the courage it embodied. The courage to love despite the cost, to choose connection over solitude, to defy fate for the sake of the heart. Some nights, it is said that Aldrich and Alara still walk among the trees, hand in hand, shadows flitting around them like old memories, their laughter carried on the wind. The kingdom may have endured chaos in their absence, the crown may have been claimed by another, and the curse may have lingered, but for those who truly understood, the legend was simple and eternal. Love, once chosen, can never be entirely lost. And in that timeless truth, the story lives on. A reminder that the bravest choice of all is often the one that defies expectation, that love, fragile, dangerous, and unstoppable, can outlast fear, duty, and even the cruelest curses.